In December 1975, a man named Saul Price walked into a boardroom in San Diego. He thought it was going to be the most important moment of his career. When he sat down, however, he realized it was a trap. And by the end of the meeting, he had lost the company that he had spent decades building. It was a disaster. But it was a disaster that set something in motion that today over 100 million people are a part of, whether they know this story or not. So Saul Price starts a store called FedMart in the 1950s in San Diego, and he then expands to places like Texas and Phoenix. FedMart sells a big variety of stuff, appliances, groceries, household goods, and all for super cheap prices. The hook is that customers can get those cheap prices if they sign up for a membership. It takes off from the beginning, making over $3 million in its first year. Eventually, more and more competitors start coming after FedMart, and Saul needs to figure out how to keep growing. Scaling companies wasn't really Saul's specialty. Saul decides he needs a partner to make FedMart stronger. So Saul is on the hunt for a partner, and he goes to Europe. And there he meets Hugo Mann, a very successful businessman that runs a chain of supermarkets in Germany. Hugo is rich and confident and really turns up the charm. Hugo wines Saul and dines him and takes him to these beautiful European locations. But there are some signs. Hugo and his team are really aggressive in the negotiations, and some of the things that he and his team says don't really sit right. But Saul is totally charmed and he wants this to happen, so he pushes the deal through. Saul sells a majority stake in FedMart to Hugo. So not so long after, it's the first meeting of the new board. Saul is running the company and Hugo is the new owner. Saul walks into the room. He's got hope and excitement. He's been waiting for this moment and now it's here. And Hugo starts talking, but something is off. He's not talking about the future. Hugo is talking about Saul and how bad he is. For an hour and a half, Hugo goes on and on about how bad a job Saul has done and how bad FedMart is. But that's not all. Hugo then fires Saul, and he then fires Saul's son, Robert, who had worked for the company. And that's not all either. Hugo kicks Saul out of the room and literally locks the doors to the building. So the deal to launch Saul into a new future has turned into a nightmare, and Saul has lost the company that he built. Saul is out. So he has a choice: quit or keep fighting. The next day, Saul starts a new company. Not because he has a master plan, but because he's not done. And there's one idea that has really energized Saul ever since he discovered it when he was traveling in Europe: warehouses. Yeah, warehouses. And specifically using them as stores. He wants to take this idea that he's most excited about and build a new business around it. Take a warehouse, stock it with fewer items, not more items, and expect that customers will want to buy. Betting that people will want to buy out of a plain warehouse with endlessly high ceilings, concrete floors, and steel racks. Basically the opposite of what people in America said you should do. Saul keeps going. He finds an airplane hangar in San Diego and he opens the first warehouse store. He calls it Price Club. And because he's operating out of a warehouse, not separate stores, and because he offers fewer items, not more, he's able to offer crazy low prices. At first they start selling to businesses because it seems like businesses would be the ones who want to buy in bulk, but not that many businesses sign up. So Saul and his team try something bizarre, opening up the warehouse to normal people who can just come in and buy in bulk. Price Club explodes, and it keeps growing from there. In 1979, they go public. It was so successful that a lot of other companies start copying the warehouse model as well, like Home Depot and Sam's Club. And then Saul is approached by an entrepreneur named Jeff Brotman. Jeff and his family love Price Club and they want to open a franchise in Seattle. But Saul says no, he's pretty conservative on expansion. So Jeff keeps going on his own. Jeff hires away Saul's right-hand man, Jim Senegal, and they open their own version of Price Club. Jim Senegal uses everything he's learned at Price Club and everything he's learned from Saul. They call it Costco. And eventually, Saul's Price Club merges into Costco. Today, Costco makes over $250 billion a year, and it has over 140 million cardholders. And so, one of the biggest stores in America got started with a man walking out of a boardroom after the worst meeting of his life.